Imagine going to visit your deceased loved one in a forest-like cemetery instead of in a traditional headstone-filled cemetery. A traditional cemetery is not good for the environment. I know there are a lot of them. We actually don't see many green burials, but it is something we need to think about because our world is, we're destroying it. And we need to think about our future and our kids' future and our grandchildren's future. We need to stop being selfish and think about the environment. In a traditional burial, there in a traditional burial, imagine going to visit your deceased loved one in a forest-like cemetery instead of a traditional headstone-filled cemetery. As Imagine going to visit your deceased loved one in a forest-like cemetery instead of a traditional headstone-filled cemetery. The traditional burials are not good for the environment. They're actually very bad because we use things that aren't biodegradable and we put them in the ground. As a human race, we need to think about the future of this planet, not only for us, but for our children and for our grandchildren. If we don't take care of this planet now, what will our children have to do? Imagine if they can't go outside because it's so bad outside. And in a traditional burial, in one cemetery, 1,000 tons of casket steel is used. And of course, that is just going to be there forever in the ground. 20,000 tons of concrete burial vaults are used. And that concrete is also just going to be there, not doing any good for the environment. And there is enough wood from coffins to build 40 homes. This wood is being cut down just so it could sit there. Why not use it for actual homes instead of something that's just going to stay there? Green burials are a little greener, of course. Our bodies will return to nature and give life to trees. Imagine you dying, but you're doing something great for the environment, not just your body rotting in a wood casket. Instead of metal caskets, there are actually biodegradable ecopods that are used, and those would give nutrition to the trees and the environment around you. Flat stones are used as grave markers to preserve nature. And according to Passover, imagine going to visit your deceased loved one in a forest-like cemetery like the picture on your left, instead of a headstone-filled cemetery like the picture on your right. All we see here are basically traditional burials, the traditional cemeteries, but they're actually bad for the environment. Traditional burials, in one cemetery, there are 1,000 tons of casket steel that are just sitting there in the ground. 20,000 tons of concrete burial vaults that are just also sitting there doing nothing great for the environment. And there is enough wood from coffins to build 40 homes. Why are we going to cut down trees so we can just bury the wood underground? I mean, we could actually make 40 homes. Wouldn't that be better? Cutting trees to build you a home instead of cutting trees for you to lay in there when you're dead. So, green burials are greener. Our bodies will return to nature and give life to trees. Wouldn't that be amazing? You giving life to a tree when you're gone instead of, doing nothing in the ground. And this is what an ecopod, a biodegradable ecopod, looks like. Instead of metal caskets, that's what we would use. And these give the nutrition to the trees and the environment around you. So we can do great things for the environment instead of doing nothing. So instead of headstones, concrete headstones, there would be flat stones to use as grave markers to preserve nature. Imagine going to visit your deceased loved one in a forest-like cemetery instead of a headstone-filled cemetery. Imagine going to visit your deceased loved one in a forest-like cemetery, like the picture on your left, instead of a headstone-filled cemetery, like the picture on your right. Wouldn't it be much better to go to one like the picture on your left? It's a lot nicer and it is a lot more healthier for the environment to have one, to have a green burial sites like the picture on your left. Traditional burials are bad for the environment. I know we see them everywhere and we do not see any green burials. But to let you know, in one cemetery, 1,000 tons of casket steel are used. And this steel is not great for the environment at all. It is just going to sit there in the ground doing nothing for the environment. Actually, it's bad for the environment. 20,000 tons of concrete burial vaults are created. Why? Just so they can sit there and look pretty, I guess. We use enough wood from coffins to build 40 homes. For what? So they can just sit there underground? Why cut trees for no reason so they can just sit underground? Why not use those trees that are cut down to actually build you a home? And in 1 year, 800 gallons of formaldehyde-based embalming fluid are used every year, just so you rot slower. I mean, you're still going to rot. Why use it? So this is what an ecopod looks like. These are biodegradable and it would give the nutrients to a tree, a beautiful, beautiful tree. And you could, help the environment once you're gone. Wouldn't that be amazing? So, in a green burial, no formaldehyde is used. Instead, they would use ice to keep you fresh until your burial date. Instead of metal casket, instead of headstones, flat stones are used as grave markers to preserve nature. And aside from a green burial being great for the environment, it is also a lot cheaper. Wouldn't that be great? Because traditional burials cost more than $10,000. Why leave your family with a burden to pay for your burial if you don't have insurance. And a green burial is great for the environment, and the maximum cost is up to $4,000. That is a lot better than paying $10,000. So we as humans have caused so much pollution and use things that are not great for the environment, from the cereal that we buy to the cars we use. We are causing the world great harm. If we don't help the environment now, at least when we are no longer alive, let's be green in our burials and give some life to our surrounding ecosystem. Not just for you, for your children, for your grandchildren, for your great grandchildren, for your great great grandchildren. So this world keep being as beautiful as it is. Thank you.